I remember the first time I saw The Exorcist, I was 5 or 6 years old. Begged my parents to let me watch it. They said, sure, no problem. My parents took me to see horror movies all the time, so they had no problem with it. I remember it was nighttime. I sat through the whole movie, and when the movie was over, they said, okay, time to go to bed. I said, no, not a chance. I'm not going in there. There's a girl with her head spinning around in the room. I'm going to sleep in your bed for about a month, and if I remember correctly, that's about how long I stayed in their bed.
The Exorcist is an absolute classic, not even horror, but just across the board. And it really has become, since then, kind of the gold standard that any possession movie tries to achieve.
Incredibly groundbreaking, it's harsh, and it's amazing it stands up as well as it does. Few films that have come out in the past 40 years can even touch how scary and disturbing this film really is.
This was a movie that my mother used to put literally the fear of God, or actually the fear of evil, into me. And it really served its purpose, because it was so scary that as an 8-year-old, I had to literally have her turn it off. And I liked horror movies then. I was into scary movies, but I couldn't digest that at such a young age. And it literally took me, I was probably in high school before I actually watched the movie again. That is how impactful this movie is.
It's become so reviewed, revered, even parodied, that I have to try to think, what was it like in 1973, to buy a ticket, not having read the book, not knowing anything, and going into the movie. And I think about a few things. For example, we see Marin at the beginning, the Max von Sydow character, and here he is in Iraq. He's under the sun. He digs up this artifact. We kind of follow him along, and then he's gone. And next thing we know, we're in Georgetown, and we don't really see him again. And I think people forget this. He does get summoned, and when he gets summoned, we only see his back as one of the young priests at the monastery he's staying at goes to get him. Then, of course, there's probably the most famous shot in the movie is the taxi cab pulling up to the house, and the silhouetted character getting out of the cab and standing under the streetlight. But we don't see his face again until he actually walks into the house and is ready to perform the exorcism with Father Karras. There's a lot said about the demon face, and if you think about it, in this 2-hour and 5-minute movie or whatever it is, that demon's face only makes up probably less than 3 seconds of the whole movie. Yet it's one of the most memorable things people reference all the time. You really have to pause it to even get a sense of what it is. But it really is, considering that it's seconds long, it really is one of the most disturbing images in horror film history.
So I first saw this movie when I was probably 6 years old, which is a crazy story in itself, why a 6-year-old's watching The Exorcist. But it wasn't until I was in my early teens that I first saw the faces. I don't know if I was too young or whatever, but I remember sitting at my friend Chris's house, and we were watching The Exorcist, and I saw the face for the first time. And both of us kind of jumped back. I guess he hadn't seen it either, and it was really, really scary.
Here she is flipping, obviously not of her own accord, flipping up and being bent around almost like a pretzel, and just it's very harsh, and yet that's still not enough to turn the doctors around that this could be all in her head.
Chris, doctors. Mother, please! What is it? What's happening? Stop! It's burning! It's burning! Do something, doctor, please help her! Please, Mother! We'll make it stop! It's trying to kill you! Mother! Make it...
I couldn't imagine, being called over to somebody's house because, my child is displaying odd symptoms, and then when you actually get there, you see this kid flopping around and making a sound that sounds like something from, I don't know, Saturday Night Live, like a fake monster movie. But it's real for these people, and to see them, just the looks on their faces and watching her neck bubble out like that is just I couldn't imagine being in that position. If I went to my friend's house and his kid was doing that, I'd probably leave.
Yes, the famous backward spider crawl. Many people, watching this now, that scene is very associated with this film. However, it was not in the original edit. Wasn't even in the 25th anniversary edit. That was added much later. And I recently saw an interview with William Friedkin, and he talked about that scene, and the whole reason it was never put in there is he was not comfortable with the special effects. Apparently you could see the strings, and then once the digital technology caught up and he was able to get those removed is when he finally decided to put that in.
Oh my God.
I remember me and my buddy Wayne went to the movies to see the re-release of The Exorcist, and this was the big scene. And I mean, I screamed probably like, I swear to God, moviegoers were probably just like, where's the 5-year-old girl in the theater? Because it scared the hell out of me. So this is where the movie starts to get crazy, right? This is like the very beginning. I mean, you've seen some signs that that Reagan's possessed, but this is really where it gets crazy. I mean, mom comes in, she's jamming a crucifix in her crotch, shoving her mom's face in, she's smacking her mom around. And what's really crazy is when Christy McNeil's laying there, you see the people are coming running in to help her, and the door shuts. It's telling you that, look, she's alone, you can't help this girl. And then her head spins for the first time in the movie, and that's where you hear the classic line, do you know what she did, your cunting daughter? And she's letting you know that, hey, she did kill Burke, and this is really happening.
It's Jesus, fuck you! It's Jesus, fuck you! Man, fuck you! Lift me! Lift me!
You know what she did? Your cunting daughter?
40 years later, that masturbation scene is still completely shocking. Not only is it a 12-year-old girl, it's brutal. The way she manhandles her mother, that whole scene really pushed the boundaries like nothing before it.
Reagan's ability to projectile vomit, not only to projectile vomit, but to aim where her projectile vomit can go, like at Karras's face, not just once, but she gets him with 2 good solid shots, outweighs anything that I ever accomplished in college. And I drank a lot of alcohol.
What is it?
I guess it's kind of become known as the pea soup scene. And it's been parodied. People really make fun of it more than they take it seriously. But I always go back to the fact that this is a horror movie, and really just thinking about what's going on there. You've got a 12-year-old girl who's gone through this horrific metamorphosis throughout this movie, and just that she's lost control of everything, and she's completely out of her control of her body, and it manifests itself that way. I think it's interesting that taken out of context, it just kind of becomes a funny reference, but it really is an important part of the movie and what's going on.
The power of Christ compels you. This is at the point in the exorcism where she's floating around. They're throwing the holy water at her, and you can see it's cutting her legs. And they say the power of Christ compels you so many times that she'll never forget those words. But the thing that you remember is, you get the feeling that it's not working.
It's the power. Holy water. It's the power of Christ that compels you. The power of Christ. The power of Christ compels you. The power of Christ compels you.
Almost like mocking religion in that way. Here they are with all their strength, uttering and trying to conjure the essence of Jesus to pull this demon out. And Here's Reagan levitating in a Christ pose up towards the sky like she's oblivious and that it's not harming the demon, it's not doing the trick.